So we're starting to see the change in the science now to support industry again. Yesterday on the local talk radio station, they were talking about genetically modified organisms, GMO food, and the local science representative said that 100% of our food is genetically modified. Everything you buy in the store is genetically modified. And again, this is not a problem with if he said was true or not, but it's a changing of the definition. Most people who are opposed to GMO are opposed to our food being modified in a laboratory using artificial means, things that won't happen normally in nature. But what this scientist was using in his explanation was the fact that all of our food has been modified from what you would find normally in nature because people have intentionally bred the more desirable traits. So if you found an apple that tasted better, you grafted that apple on. Like all of the apples that you buy don't grow from a seed because normal seeds from apples are a mixture and you'll get something that's like a crab apple. But if you want a Cortland, they've all come from one Cortland tree that grew hundreds of years ago, and they have to take cuttings from that and put it onto an existing tree in order to get Cortland apples. Same with Macintosh or any of these other types of apples. They're all modified through selective breeding. Same with corn or cauliflower or onions or cabbage or anything you get at the store has all been modified through selective breeding. But that's not what people are opposed to when they're talking about GMO or genetically modified organisms. What people are opposed to is when you cut a gene out of a bacteria or a pig or anything and then artificially splice that into the gene for your corn, or cut a gene out of a bee and cut it into your dog. Those things won't happen in nature. Those things will not happen. No matter how often you try to put a bee and a dog in the same cage, they're not going to breed. They're not going to have those genes going to cross over. No matter how often you spray your corn with that bacteria, that gene is not going to make its way into the corn's genome. That's a genetic modification. That's artificial in nature. It will never, ever, ever happen. It's not where you do a selective breeding and then what you've basically done is try to direct where the natural mixing of genes is going to go, but it's artificial. It's a modification done outside of the natural system that would work. And this change in definitions is typical in discussions and stuff where they're trying to change how we think about things. And by muddying the waters, by changing this definition from what people think of when they say GMO and what they are trying to say GMO is, they're trying to make you accept it. It's not 100% of our food that is been artificially modified in a lab to include genes that would never ever happen in real life. But it's a very small percentage right now of our food that has been modified in a lab to splice in genes that don't normally end up in that type of food. And that's what people are opposed to. And this is not a statement on whether or not I'm opposed to it or not. What I'm opposed to is when people redefine terms so that they muddy the waters of the debate and the discussion. If you don't define your terms, you're not arguing the same thing anymore. And if you're not arguing the same thing, how can you agree? Or how can you win? Or how can you reach any conclusion? That's my opinion.